Mr. Lapid, great to see you on TV Rain. We appreciate this opportunity. Thank you. First of all, I would like to ask you about the prospects of American support. The Economist writes, citing the sources, that Antony Blinken has asked Israel to complete its military operation in Gaza by the new year. Is this true?
No, there were rumors discussing this when Mr. Blinken was here, when the Secretary of State was here. I've met with him and we've spoken about this in length. There is no deadline. They have emphasized the fact that Israel should do its best in order to finish the operation, but they understand that the number one goal is to eradicate Hamas and bring back the hostages, and therefore it might take a little longer. And they understand this. And they understand war is not, a laboratory event. It's not clinical. It is messy and it takes time. And sometimes what you are planning is not exactly what is happening. So they understand that the time factor should be more flexible.
And if we talk about the flexibility of time, do you have any understanding of the prospects, approximately?
I don't want to name the dates, but I think it's going to take weeks, if not more than that.
Okay, let's talk about the reaction of the international community on what is going on in the Middle East, the attack of terrorists of October 7th, and then the war that is going on in Gaza Strip. We can see that you have accused Mr. Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, in anti-Semitism. There are people who would say that this is not an anti-Semitism, that he is just trying to be defensive of the civilians that are massively dying in Gaza. What would you answer to that?
Katya, do you allow me to be angry for a minute?
Of course.
Thank you. Listen, he activated something called Article 99. Article 99 is the article that allows the General Secretary of the UN to have the assembly of the Security Council. He didn't activate Article 99 when 500,000 people were killed in Syria. He didn't activate Article 99 when 500,000 people were killed in Darfur, when 4 million people were killed in Congo during the Ukrainian war. The only thing that caused him, that made him activate Article 99, is the fact that we are trying to protect our lives after a terror organization has killed 1,200 of our people and abducted 240 men, women, and children. Our people were burned alive, babies were beheaded, women were raped, and he's activating the article against us. Yes, we are fighting for our life. Yes, there is human misery, and the majority of this human misery is caused by the fact that Hamas is using his own people as human shield, as he very well knows. So, since there's no other explanation, anti-Semitism is the explanation.
They accuse Israel in not providing the safe corridors to the civilians from Gaza Strip. Do you have a comment?
Yes, this is not true. We have done everything in our power to move people, the civilians, away from battle zones. And the only reason some of them were caught in crossfire is because Hamas is on gunpoint holding their people in battlefields in order to use them as human shield. The problem we sometimes have is that the idea of somebody using his own children as human shield is so monstrous and so preposterous that people feel it is difficult for them to believe it to be true, but it is. So every complaint anyone had about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, I suggest they direct it to Hamas.
Okay, I got your point. Now, I would like to ask you about Russia, about Vladimir Putin, the president of Russian Federation. His reaction on what is happening right now and what has happened on October 7th is quite, I don't know, you tell me, is it surprising to you?
Surprising, I'm not sure this is the right word. Disappointing, yes. Cynical, of course. Unjustified, for sure. We're not going to get lectures about terror from the person who invaded Ukraine. The fact that he has decided to side it up with Hamas is more than anything else is a sign to the kind of influence Iran has now on Russian politics. And because of the Ukrainian war, and because of the dependency of the current Russian government on Iranian supplies, especially drones. So the fact that President Putin has decided to side with Hamas, a terror organization, a fundamentalist Islamic terror organization, is grotesque to me. Let me ask you this: imagine a terror organization have killed in Moscow 1,200 Russians and abducted 240 more. What do you think the response of President Putin would be? I'm telling you, this will be 100 times worse than what Israel is doing right now.
Do you have any regrets, if I might ask you this question, Mr. Lapid, about the previous policy of Israel towards Russia? We understand the situation, of course, in the Middle East, and Israel's position was, forced to rely on Russia partly because of different issues that you are having and you've been having for so long. But right now, do you think that Russia was an unreliable partner? Do you regret about that?
I don't know if regret is the word. The Russian-Ukrainian war has started when I was foreign minister, and in the same day, I think it was February 24th, I already issued the first statement supporting Ukraine and made sure that Israel will support Ukraine on any international arena or forum. There were requests afterwards when I was foreign minister and prime minister for some sort of all sorts of mostly aviational defense systems from Ukraine that we have declined, or we were forced to say no to. But basically, our support, or at least the government I led, was totally supportive of Ukraine. I had more than one conversation with President Zelensky. And as I said in more than one interview, we are on the right side of history on this war and therefore support Ukraine.
And after what has happened and after this reaction that you have just commented on, reaction of Vladimir Putin, would the status of the relationships between Israel and Russia change? Would you expect some, radical changes?
Well, of course, it has its influence. I know the current Prime Minister Netanyahu had a conversation with President Putin the other day. They have issued ridiculously different summaries of this conversation.
As usual.
Anyone is telling his own story.
Absolutely.
But I think what we need to do now is, make sure the Russians understand, yes, this will influence the relationship, and we have to go on supporting our Ukrainian friends in the just war.
Going back to Gaza Strip, Mr. Lapid, how do you see the future of this territory? We have heard the statements of Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, and he was talking about indefinite control of the security situation. What's your take on that?
Well, Israel, the one terrible lesson and bitter lesson we have learned in October 7 is that Israel's security should be run only by Israel, and we can only trust ourselves.
Okay.
And the Israeli army. And therefore, we're going to maintain security control over Gaza. But we have no interest whatsoever in running the life of the people of Gaza. So we should, I think, at least on the first step or the first phase, for let's say the next 3 to 5 years, after the current stage of this war, we will have some sort of international support system with an organizing body that will include the Palestinian Authority in order to have some sort of governance for the people of Gaza. We don't want to be the suppliers of education or health systems to the people of Gaza. They can have self-governance as long as Hamas is not running Gaza.
Mm-hmm. And it is possible. Because, there is always a question of, let's imagine, and I hope that this happens actually, that Israel destroys the terroristic infrastructure But then how do you guarantee that the new terrorists would not occur and would not take revenge and take control? I mean, this is always a big question, right?
Yes, and it's the never-ending answer is that we will have to make sure that the Israeli Defense Forces are capable of reaching any point and every terrorist that might raise his head in Gaza. This is unfortunate. We have, we have left Gaza. People tend to forget this. We have left Gaza in 2005. We have done everything in our power to help them build their own lives without us. For all practical purposes, they should have had a successful state by now. And instead, they have used all the resources in order to build another terrorist infrastructure. So we will have to go in and out on daily basis sometimes in order to make sure terrorist doesn't raise his head again.
Yeah. And, you know, the last question, and maybe the most important question to so many people in Israel, do you still believe that the hostages may be released? And how big the chances are, in your opinion?
You know, it's interesting. I'm not a praying man. I'm a secular, but for this I pray on daily basis, including 40 minutes ago with the entire with my party members. We will have to do everything. This is the number one goal of this war: bring our people back home, making sure all those adults, children, women, elderly go back home from captivity of an ISIS-like terror organization. We will, if we need so, we will negotiate for it. If need so, we will have military operations. But the number one goal of this country right now is bring them home. So, and I know you're praying with me and with the entire people of Israel for the safe return.
We do. Do you still think that negotiations can help? And do you think that you actually will negotiate Israel, I mean?
Yeah, well, we did, and
yes, you did.
And the first group of hostages were brought back, so it is possible. If we can do it, I mean, we are dealing with it through mediators. Qatar and Egypt were actually helpful on this one. Of course, the Americans. We do expect the Red Cross to be more proactive in at least visiting our people and make sure that they're well. So yes, I do. I'm an optimist by nature, but on top of this, from what I know, it is still doable, and we have to do everything we can in order to make this happen.
Mr. Lapid, good luck. Thank you very much. We do appreciate this, and hope to see you again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We operated in Russia for 12 years, and the government tried to get rid of us 3 times.
We had to leave, forced out of the country by new repressive laws after the first week of the war. Our freedom crushed by the authorities.
Мы временно приостанавливаем работу телеканала.
We survived, started working from Europe, and now we are watched by millions of people every day.
There's no other independent news channel in Russian. We have now decided to tell the truth about Russia in English as well.
So that you could get news about Russia, the war in Ukraine, and Russian society directly from the source.
We want to tell you firsthand what is really happening in Russia. Subscribe to TV Rain Newsroom on YouTube, and let's take a look at our future together.